What isn't going on Shibuya? More like happy fun things for one. So true. So true. Okay. Time for Chaos Head. We'll be getting Ayase route, which will be interesting. FES. I think Yua's route gives us the
僕の名
best
前は
idea of
西条
what to
匠
expect
17歳
from all the
水明学
others,
園2年
but especially since they all will be
片
starting
付けろよな
after chapter
誰だよ散
7,
らかしっ
except
ぱ
for
なしにしたの
me.
は
So
僕か
it was kind of interesting that it didn't take a romance route with Mimi, not Mimi, Yua, because that's what I kind of expected to happen, especially after what happened with Nanami. But we'll see. We're definitely gonna learn a lot more about Fess, which will be interesting because she is very interesting. She is a peculiar little being. We visual novel speedrun, let's go. Looked right at me. Here we go. We need 2 negative delusion. Yeah, negative delusion for Ayase here. Interesting. Fess wants me to save her. Okay, yeah, here we go. Here's new shit. Right, I remember getting brought here the first time around. But yes. I want to give in to her temptation. No. It would feel so good to jump. Yes, apparently. I'd be willing to die if I could do it with Fess. Yes, apparently. I want to be released from everything. Yes. Well, I think I have a feeling how, this is gonna go.
ねえナイトハルト
Oh dear. Ayase Kishimoto stood in front of the school's gate in the morning, looking up at the sky. The other students were passing her by. She noticed the strange looks they gave her, but didn't care. Her eyes were filled with a kind of powerless lethargy. For Ayase, going to school was meaningless. Even now, in her 3rd year, it still felt strange to wear a uniform. Why? Because the world was about to be destroyed. There were more important things to do than go to school. That's how Ayase felt anyway. Still, she came, because she was searching for the door and the other Black Knights. Suime Academy was the place where the Black Knights would gather. No, where they would be gathered, more accurately. That was how Ayase saw it. She'd always been a problem child, rarely ever going to middle school. Middle school was compulsory in Japan, but high school wasn't. She never expected to go there. Yeah, that's actually a thing that I learned during my Japanese class about how, like, it's kind of only recent for, like, high school being more or less mandatory. Not really, but that's also, like, why entrance exams exist in high schools, which isn't really a thing here in the States. And there actually is still, like, 1 to 2%, something like that, of students that just don't go to high school and just go straight into, like, work, like, say, in the fields or things like that. So it's just interesting how that's, like, pretty different. But in May of her 1st year, she transferred in anyway. She still remembered it well. On that day, she was also standing here in front of the school. Until then, she lived at a facility run by the Arcart Medical Group. There, she endured hellish trials until she'd finally become a Black Knight. After a month or so of rest to restore her damaged mental state, she'd been exiled from the facility. The director of the facility, she didn't care enough to remember his name, had said this to her just before she left. Starting tomorrow, you'll be attending a school in Shibuya called Suime Academy. The preparations have already been made. She was not told the reason. So, on the day she transferred here, She stood in front of the school gate and sang a little song to herself.
天空赤く
When
染
the
まる
heavens
時
turn red
写
and the
真
king
王の
of
大
wicked
量と
hearts
交
stirs in
し
the womb,
7つの
7
黒
wicked
き写
hearts
真
will
は
be
生まれ
born, to
やがて
someday gather at the
聖
holy
域へと
grounds.
召喚されるそして
And
宣
there,
言する
they
の
will
だ
declare,
悪
all
夢よ
disaster, all
最悪よ
nightmare, all
暗
lumps of
黒なる
dark
肉塊た
flesh,
ちよ
by wicked hearts
写
and
真によ
wicked
り写
hearts
真をほ
buried,
ぶられ
and the world ruled by the
写真王
king
が
of
支
wicked
配する
hearts
世
shall
界
shatter.
砕け散ると
It was a line from a myth published under the title The Apocalyptic Psalms of the Book of Gladiel. Remembering it satisfied her. This, she knew, was where the Black Knights would gather. So, she waited. Then she searched. Until now, there had been no sign at all of any wicked hearts. But now, at last, one had appeared. She found someone who could become a Black Knight. To Ayase, this change came far too late, but it was still a welcome change indeed.
もう時間はないわ
There was little time left.
グラジオールの復活
Gladiel's awakening is
す
upon
ぐ
us.
そこ
She whispered this softly, then she stepped through the gate of the school to see the other Black Knight, the boy she'd seen at the concert. It was definitely a little more involved than FES is so far, which would make it more interesting when we finally get to properly starting the route. Or I guess more of being in the FES ending rather than being in her route, because we already are in her route. Okay. But I come anyway for a reason. To see Dreamy. I'm sure my Dokyun classmates would be making fun of me again. It hurt, but I'd be willing to put up with it if it meant possibly seeing Dreamy. Why is this not skippable? There was a chance that Shogun would come back. He seemed to be coming after me as some sort of game, which meant the next quest might start whenever he felt like it. That scared me. The reason I wanted to desword in the first place was because I was so scared of him. How was I supposed to protect myself from him without the sword? Have Remy stay with me? But Remy wasn't coming to school, and that worried me. And what if he took Remy hostage like he did Nanemi? Wasn't there anybody who could help me? I entered the classroom with my head down, and took a single look around the room before I sat down. First, at Remy's seat. Empty. Was she absent again today? Was she really not coming to school? Or was something more going on? I got worried. Next, Kozupi. She was sitting in her seat, looking down, making herself as small as possible. Good morning, Takumi. Good morning, Kozupi. We didn't look at each other, but we exchanged greetings in our mind. The Dokyun girls were grinning at me. It had only been a day. The label of creepy loser otaku who made a mess on TV wasn't coming off that quickly. The Dokyun boys evidently weren't here yet. Those guys would often skip first period. That was more than fine by me. I sat down. Then, someone slapped me on the back. Hey, Toku. It was Misumi, with an awkward expression on his face. He hadn't slapped me nearly as hard as he used to. And just yesterday he'd been ignoring me. Why was he talking to me again? If he did, it would ruin his life. The Dokyuns in the class would bully him. Yeah, Misumi would be better off if he didn't talk to me at all. When I didn't respond, Misumi forced a smile onto his face. Come on, man. It's early in the morning to look that gloomy. Well, I know that's just the kind of guy you are. He was being as rude as ever, but I didn't feel like he was being mean. It was just how he always talked. Anyway, you know, I'm sorry about yesterday. He's apologizing. And I kinda didn't know how to talk to you. But I thought about a lot of things, and I decided to just go back to how things were before. Okay. He said this so casually. He was just gonna treat me like he had before, even though I was a creepy loser, without wanting anything in return. How I was feeling wet. If Misumi wanted to do me, I'd let him. I don't think this definitely didn't happen before. Hello? Well, I'll tell you the truth. Girls like it when I'm nice to you. And he killed the moment. He's nice to everybody. Even that loser. What a cool guy. Like that. Daisuke Misumi. Die in a fire. And he's willing to offer you my virginity too. If you hadn't told me, I never would have realized what you were really after. But, well, the way he came out and said it was just who he was. Open and friendly about everything. That was enough for me to get over it. I suddenly let out a chuckle. Hey, did you hear about Kishimoto? She's still in the hospital. She wasn't really hurt, but she's in a bad spot mentally. Listen to me, Taku. If you want to win a girl's heart, the best time to do it is when she's in a vulnerable spot. What a fucker. And so that's why I'm going to visit her in the hospital, you see? Why is this not skippable? I swear you've done this. Hey Taku, you talked to Kishimoto a few times, right? You want to come with me? Well, that sounded like something Misumi would say. And it was something I'd never even thought about either. Ayase, huh? With Rimi gone, she might be the only person left I could rely on. So, okay, that was the key difference in that scene. Just, there was no Rimi at all. Huh. I'm surprised it's not skipping because this isn't new content. But whatever. It's not gonna skip, it's not gonna skip, right? The reason I come to school on Thursday was because I ended up agreeing to go see Ayase with Misumi. He practically dragged me along with him. At the same time, I was hoping that Ayase might be able to help me. With Rimi gone, I needed somebody to help me. Ayase was the first girl that came to mind. If her injuries were healed, and if I asked for her help, she might be able to do something. And with her help, my odds of getting a real D-sword would get way higher. I was powerless on my own. And she told me before that you couldn't teach somebody how to get a sword. But still, Ayase might be able to help somehow. Misumi had gone in through the front door, but when he got to the lobby, he didn't seem sure what to do. I asked him what was wrong. And I just realized that I don't know what room she's in. Had he come all this way without actually bothering to check? If so, what an idiot. This is the outpatient wing. The inpatient rooms are next door. Really? AH Tokyo General Hospital. This is the hospital I'd come to ever since I was little. I'd just been here a while ago, in fact. I had a pretty good idea of the basic layout. Suddenly, I remember what had happened to Dr. Takashino, and moaned so softly that the others didn't hear. As Misumi headed for the inpatient rooms, I looked behind me. So, what do you think her room number is? I don't know. This was a general hospital, with any number of departments in it. I'll guess. Maybe surgery? But maybe the mental ward. When she'd fallen, she hadn't looked like she was that badly injured. And if she was in bad enough shape mentally to try and jump off a building, it's entirely possible they put her there. It happened to me after the incident at O Front for some reason. Taku, you're pretty smart. Yeah, Rimi isn't here. That's so interesting. Well, that's a difference. Misumi and I figured that we'd bother the other patients if we wandered around, so we decided to ask about Ayase at the nurse station. Just as I thought. They gave us a number for a room in the psych ward. Hey, remember what I told you? about the
女を
easiest
落
way
と
to
すのに
seduce the
一番
girl.
簡単な方法。
As we walked down the hallway, Misumi was grinning at me. It wasn't really an appropriate topic of discussion for a hospital, I thought. I think what he said was that if you want to win a girl's heart, the best time to do it is when she's in a vulnerable spot.
俺は今日こそ
Today's the day.
あ
I'm
の
going
難
to
攻不落の
seduce the
岸本を落として
unseducible
みせるぜ。
Kishimoto. Oh, buddy. He flashed his teeth at me and gave me a thumbs up. He was handsome and cheerful, but the words he was saying were awful. It must be nice to be so hot the girls will forgive you even when you're a shithead.
でだ。
So,
お
well,
前っ
that's where
て
you come in.
岸本と仲
You
いい
and
だろ。
Kishimoto are close, right?
別
Not-
に
No.
しらばっくれるな
Aw, don't
よ。
lie to me.
というわけ
I need you
で、
to
フォロー
back me
頼む
up
ぜ。
here.
岸
Tell him
本
what an
に
awesome
いか
guy
に三井
Daisuke
大輔って
Misumi
人間が素
is.
晴らしいかを語ってく
You're
れ。
kind of a shithead though, buddy. It's okay. We care you anyway. At least I care him. Yeah.
無理だよ
I can't.
無理とか言う
Come
なっ
on.
て。
Don't say that.
マジ頼むから
Public
さ。
eye out here. Knock it off. This is the hospital, not some sleazy bar. Is it okay to go to see Ayase like this? She didn't seem to like Misumi that much. My stomach started to hurt.
お、
Hey,
タク。
Taku.
病室はこ
I
こじゃ
think
ねえ
this is her
か。
room. Misumi stopped and pointed out the plate on the side of the door. It read, Ayase Kishimoto. The door was shut and there was no way to tell what was going on inside.
いいか
You ready?
うまく
Let's play
俺に
along
話
with
を合
what
わ
I
せろ
say.
よ。
え
Huh?
うん
Okay. I decided to just nod. I needed to talk to her too. Without Misumi there to help me, I didn't feel like I'd be able to do that.
おーせ、
Hey,
岸本さん。
Misumi greeted her cheerfully as he opened the door.
お見舞いに
I
来た。
came to visit you. Suddenly, his tone dropped. His expression froze. I looked over his shoulder into the room to see what was wrong. Oh. Huh. So, Rinimi is there. And I think that's Nanami's D-Sword, isn't it? Oh, that's interesting. Okay. The room was small and simple in layout. There was a bathroom on the right side from the entrance, and a bed near the back, and on the bed. Oh. Ayase was sitting there, covered in blood. Her dead eyes were staring at us. Valid. I wanted to run away too, but my legs weren't moving. I was shaking with fear. But I was also struck by how bewitchingly beautiful Ayase looked as she was covered in blood. I slumped by what I saw lying up against the wall behind her. I couldn't move. Casually placed up against the wall was a D-sword. More than a D-sword. 3 D-swords. Count. There it is. No, not just 1. 3. Including the one she'd had with her before. All of them looked different. One had a strange, streamlined form that barely looked like a sword at all. One had a form like a crucifix. It was painful to even look at. And one was the mysterious, almost mystical weapon I'd seen her holding before. Why did Ayase have 3D swords? Wait, since when was there a rule that you could only have 1 D-sword? You know what, that is a good point, but... It's possible that Sena and Kozubi had several different looking weapons too.
Takumi.
Takumi. I shuddered when she called my name. She walked toward me.
来て
You
くれたの
came,
ね
then.
どうして
Why is
そんなに
there so
血が
much blood? The red blood on her pajamas still wasn't dry. The raw scent stung my nose.
黒騎士の血よ
This is the blood of the
Correct.
Black Knight. Why?
黒騎士って
Knight?
綾瀬
Your
本人
blood?
いいえ
No.
じゃあ
Then
誰
who?
綾瀬はその
Did
人を
you kill
殺したの
them? Ayase's eyes narrowed, and she laughed.
怯えているのね
You're scared, aren't you,
Takumi.
Takumi? Her bloody fingers stroked my cheek.
でも君
But
を
what's
怯えさせ
making
てい
you
るのは
afraid?
君
is
自身の
inside your
心の内にあるものよ不浄なる邪
Defeat
心
your
に打ち
impure,
勝って
wicked heart.
純粋な邪
Keep
心の
only
み
your
を
pure,
心に留
wicked
める
heart
のよ
within you.
そうすれば
That's how
理
you'll
想で
get
は
your
手に
D
入
sword.
る手に入れてもらわ
I
な
need
く
you
ちゃ
to
いけ
get
ない
your D sword.
君は
You
黒
are
騎
a
士なのよ
black knight.
君には
You
力
have
が
the
ある
power.
理想度を手
If
に入
I
れたら
get the D sword, will
僕
you
も殺す
kill
の
me too?
黒騎士を殺し
You
て
killed
き
the
た
others, right?
惑わされない
Don't be deceived.
それが
That is your
不浄
impure,
なる邪
wicked
心
heart.
よ
Ayase was staring into my eyes with a hand on my cheek. Her eyes looked empty, but also felt like there was a deep light within them. I couldn't look away from her.
黒騎士
A
は
black knight
本
should
来
be
なら
able to
邪心を
control
制
their
御でき
wicked
るわ
heart,
けれど
but the king of
邪心は
wicked
巧
hearts
妙だ
was
った
clever.
グラジオル記
The
黙示
sixth
録
book
詩
of
編
the
第
apocalyptic
6
Psalms of
2
Gladio,
章50
chapter
節
2, verse 50.
グラジオルは
Gladio
邪
infects
心
the
を
wicked
少し
hearts
ずつ侵
subtly
食するこ
and
とで
slowly, quietly
静かに
taking
支配を
over and
完
making
了
them
し
lose control.
邪心の暴走を引き起こすのよ負けては
You
いけ
must
ない
not
わ
lose this fight.
邪心
You
は
fight
精
against the
神
psychic
侵略
invasion of the king of wicked hearts. I never spent so long gazing into the eyes of a 3D girl. The sadness, loneliness, the strength in her eyes compelled me to keep staring. I hadn't really heard a single thing she said. But
守って
protect me. I whispered without even realizing I'd done so.
僕
Protect me,
守ってくれ
please.
いいわ
Very well. She nodded, far more easily than I expected. She brought her face closer. The smell of blood got stronger, naturally.
これは
This was
予定され
ordained
ていた
from
こ
the
と
start. She whispered in my ears. My heart was racing.
君を守るわ
I'll protect you.
君
So,
も
I want
私
you
を
to
守って
protect me. Standing there covered in blood, she was ravishing, tempting, seductive. It was hard to believe she was my classmate.
他の黒騎士は
The other black knights,
当て
I
にはで
can't
きない
count on them anymore.
最初は
I
予
tried
言
to
通り
gather
に
them
黒騎士
together
を
as
集
the
めようと
prophecy
思ったけ
said,
れど
but
私の
I wasn't
力では
strong
無理
enough.
だったでも
But
匠がいてく
with
れる
your
なら
help. It had been the same way at the concert. Sometimes Ayase could look incredibly sexual. Hello, she is covered in blood.
いずれ完全
Soon,
に開く
the gate of
呼吸とその門は
Cocytus will
その
fully
時
open.
邪
When
神
that
がこの世
happens,
に降
the
臨
king
す
of
る
wicked hearts will descend upon this earth.
だから
That's why we need to
急いで
hurry
集める
and gather them.
7本の
The
理想
seven
の
D swords. I see. Hmm.
私と
You
Kim.
and I. Together.
2人で
There were 3 swords lying up against the wall, which meant there were 4 left.
うち1本は
One of those is the
Takumi.
one you are.
君が見つけるべき理想だよ
僕は
I
手に入れられなかっ
couldn't
た
find it. I come close out the O front building. By that end, I'd abandoned Nanami and ran away. I'd given up on getting it.
落ち込むことはないわ
You don't need to worry.
機会はいくらでも
There'll
やっ
be
て
any
くる
number of chances.
すでに匠は
You can
見えている
already
んだから
see,
それこそが
and that's proof
君が黒
that you
騎
are
士で
a
ある
black
証拠よ
knight.
いつか
Will I get
手
it
に入る
someday?
のかな
不浄なる邪
If you
神
can
の打ち
defeat
方
your
は
impure, wicked heart,
必ず
then yes. What was a wicked heart? did she mean how my mind was constantly thinking of naughty delusions? More than just the naughty ones, but yes. That would be very difficult. I don't think I could beat it at all. Ayase left me and headed to the bed. She began to casually undo her top. I'm going to change. Hey, wait! I looked away quickly. I thought about just leaving the room outright, but...
そこにいて
Stay there. Now I couldn't go anywhere. The sound of Ayase disrobing echoed through the silent hospital room. This room wasn't that big. It was bigger than the base, of course. But still, and it was just me and Ayase in this cramped space. And Ayase was behind me, changing. I could sense her taking her clothes off, even if I couldn't see it. Crap, I was getting really nervous. There was no reason to be nervous, though. I'd already experienced the exact situation in Higashi Matasema's H game. A slime girl appears. Why should I be nervous now?
なぜ目をそらすの
Why are you looking away, Takumi? I mean,
見ちゃ
I
まずい
shouldn't
し
look. My voice was on the verge of cracking.
恥ずかしいの
You're
ね
embarrassed, aren't you?
綾瀬は
Aren't you
恥ずかしく
embarrassed?
ないの
Does she mean it was okay to stare? I'm not into 3D girls, okay? I mean it. I really do. Though, I mean, if she's saying I can look, I guess I will.
惑わされているのよ
You're
君
being deceived.
その感情こ
The
そ
emotions you're
写
feeling
真に侵食
are
され
proof
てい
of
る証
that.
拠
惑わされているって
Deceived
だ
by
誰に
who?
写真
Gladio.
グラ
The
ジオ
Night of Wicked Hearts. I looked over at the paperback on the side table in front of me and picked it up. The title read, The Apocalyptic Psalms of Gladio, Book 17.
グラジオールって
What is
なんなの
Gladio?
邪悪なる存
An
在
evil being.
負の妄想
A
の
massive
塊
negative delusions.
人の
A
心の闇に
collective
偏在
unconscious,
する
omnipresent of the
無意識の
darkness of the
集合体。
human heart.
世界に
A
破
god
滅
who
をも
brings
たらす
destruction
神
to the world.
言い方はい
There
ろ
are
い
any
ろ
number of ways to describe him.
そいつは
Does he
車椅
have
子
a
に乗ってる
wheelchair?
の
Like, he
足が
can't
不
walk
自
or
由とか
something?
グラジオール
There's
は
no guarantee
人の
that
形をし
Gladio
てい
will
るとは
take
限ら
human
ない
form.
わもういいわよ
It's okay.
こっち
You
を
can
見
turn
て
around now. I very slowly turned around. She'd already changed. For some reason. She was dressed in her school uniform. Okay, but like... She killed Rimi and Nanami then? Because those are their D swords. I don't like it here. I don't like it here anymore. This was not what I was expecting. Good to know. None of the endings are gonna set us up for preparation for any of the other endings. That is what I'm learning. Fuck.
なんで制
Why
服
are
に
you wearing your uniform?
迫っているか
It's
ら
coming.
グラジオ
The
ール
time of
覚醒の
Gladio's
時が
awakening is at hand.
いつでも
I
動け
need
る
to
よう
be
にして
ready
お
to
かない
act
と
at any moment. Does she need to wear her uniform for that? No, that didn't matter right now.
グラジオールが
What does
ギガ
Gladio
ロマ
have
ニア
to
ック
do
とどう
with
関
the
係して
Gigalomaniacs?
ギガロ
The Gigolo...
Nani?
What? I don't know why that's funny to me. Ayase's eyes narrowed. Just a little. Does she not know what they were? Maybe Senna was the only one who used that phrase. No.
ギガロマニアックスだよ
Gigalomaniacs. That's what
セナは
Senna
理想
called
度を持
people
つ
who
力
have
の
the
持ち
power
主の
of
こ
the
と
D
そう呼んで
sword.
た理想度
She
は
said something about it,
イラクの海
D
に繋
sword
がった
being
パイ
a
プだとか
pipe
なん
to
とか
the Diraxi. Dirac, I don't know.
呼び方は人
There
そ
might
れ
be
ぞれ
any
かもし
number
れ
of
ないわ
names for it.
理想度
The
は
D sword is a
人の写
manifestation
真を
of a
具現
human
化した
being's
ものよ
wicked heart,
グラジオール
such
記
as
目視
written in
録
the
詩編に
apocalyptic
そう書いてある
Psalms of Gladio,
第3
Book
巻
3, Chapter
11章
11,
23
verse
節
23. She really has these books memorized, huh? Jesus.
預言書なのよ。
It's a book of
それは
prophecies, you see. Ayase's gaze was locked on the paperback in my hands.
みんなはこう言うわ。
Everyone says the same
私が
thing,
歌詞によって
that my
予
lyrics
知
are
を
a
行ってい
prophecy.
ると。だけど
But
私
all
は
I'm doing
グ
is
ラジ
taking
オル記黙示
inspiration
録
from
詩
the
編から
apocalyptic
イン
psalms
ス
of
ピレ
the
ーショ
Book
ンを
of
受けている
Gladia.
だけ。その詩編
And
こ
the
そ
psalms are the
予言の
prophecy,
書なのよ。
not my songs.
なぜ気づ
Why
か
doesn't
ないの？
anyone realize
誰も。
this? Because no one else reads the psalms?
予言の書っ
The
て
Book of Prophecy?
冗談でし
You're
ょ。
kidding, right?
事実よ。
It's true.
この渋谷で
What's
今
happening in
まさ
Shibuya
に
right
起きてい
now?
ることを、
What's going to
そして
happen in the future?
これから起きよう
All
と
of
して
it
い
was
ることを
prophesied by
スイグラは予言し
Ziegler. They made it
物語
into
に
a
してい
story.
る。
ツィーグラー。
Ziegler?
グラジオル記
The
黙示
author
録詩
of
編
the
の作者。
Psalms
個人だけれど、
has passed away,
ツイグラ
but I
は
believe
強
him
大
to
な
have
黒
been
騎
an
士だったと
incredibly
思うわ。
powerful Black Knight.
私は。
Were what Ayase called Black Knights the same as Gigalomaniacs? If that was the case, then it would make sense that the author could use his Gigalomaniac powers to write a book of prophecies. I flipped through the book I was holding, the Apocalyptic Psalms of Gladiel, Book 17, and I gasped. It was blank. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah, definitely wasn't expecting that. I flipped through every page, not a single one had a single word on it. What the hell was this? I looked at the cover. There was no illustration on the cover, just the title and the name of the author. I couldn't see the name of the publisher on it anywhere. I went back to the very first page. But it was blank, just like the rest. And I went all the way through. Not a single page had anything on it.
これ
Is this
不良品。
defective?
どういうこと？
What do you mean?
だって
I mean,
これ全部白
all
紙じ
the
ゃないか。
pages are blank.
何を言ってい
What
る
are
の？
you talking about?
ちゃんと書かれてい
It's
る
just
わ。
a normal book.
何度も読んでいるの
I've
よ。
read it many
私は。
times.
そん
But
な
I
こと言ったっ
mean,
て。ほら、
look. I opened the page and shoved it right in front of her face.
どこからどう見ても
It's
真っ
totally
白だよ。
blank.
ちっとも白
It's
紙な
not
んかじゃ
blank
ない
at
わ。
all.
いや、白
No,
紙だっ
it
て。
is.
ここに字が書
There
い
are
てある。
words right here.
見えな
Can
い
you
の？
see them,
特
Takumi?
に。
Was she just screwing with me? Was she serious? Or was she just an absolutely crazy girl?
君には
So
見え
you
ないの
can't see
ね。
the text, can you?
侵食
It's
されてい
because
る
you're
からだ
being
わ。
corrupted by the king of
写真を。
wicked hearts. Ayase looked totally serious. She didn't seem to be joking at all. In fact, I didn't think I'd ever seen her tell a joke. I looked at the book again, but it was all blank.
僕
It
には
just looks
白紙に
blank
しか
to
見えな
me.
いよ。
I see.
そう。
She seemed slightly disappointed as she took the book from me. Our fingers touched for just a moment, and my heart skipped a beat. Her fingers were cold. Buddy, focus.
考えたことがあ
Have you
る。
ever thought about it?
え
Huh?
何
Thought about what?
世界は
The fact that
人に
every
よって
person sees the world in
見
a
える
different
形
way.
が違うということ。その差異
You'll
を確
never
かめ
know
るこ
just
とは
how
でき
big
ないわ
that。difference is.
概念や
It's
認識
impossible
を
to
他
make
人
your
と
own
完璧
understanding
に
of
一
a
致させる
concept
ことは
identical to
不
someone
可能だか
else's.
ら。でもこれだけははっ
And
き
there's
り
one
してい
thing
る。
I'm sure of.
君が見ているも
What
の
you're
と
seeing, what I'm
私が
seeing,
見ているもの。
the difference is due to our
その
wicked
違いは
hearts.
邪心による影響よ。 邪神の集
Gladio,
合
the
体
king
が
of wicked
邪
hearts,
神を
is a
グラジオ
collective
ル
formed of all of them,
目覚めようとし
and
てい
he's
る。
about to awaken
もうす
very soon.
ぐ。もしも目覚めたら
And if he does,
きっとこの世に
then
67億あ
6.7
る世
billion
界は
individual
邪
worlds
神
on
を
this
生む
planet
混
will
沌によっ
fuse
て混じり
melt together in the
溶け合う
chaos he
ことになるわ。
creates.
境界が
All
消え
boundaries will disappear,
邪神により
and a
連
world
結され
created
た
of
世
the
界に
linked
なるの
hearts
よ。
will be born.
あら
All
ゆる
things
も
will
の
be
は規
born
則性
without
も
any
なく
laws
生ま
to
れ、
bind their creation,
あらゆるも
and
の
all
は
things will
一
die in
瞬
a
で死
single
ぬ。
instant.
概念も
Concepts,
認識も
awareness,
因果
causality,
律も
all will be
すべて
destroyed.
破壊される。すべてあ
A
るが
world
ゆえ
with
に
everything, and
何も
thus
ない世
a
界。
world with nothing.
あらゆる神話
Just
と
like
同
all
じように
myths,
予言
it
さ
has
れて
been
いるわ。
prophesized.
終
The
末よ、
prophecy of the end times,
滅びの
the
歌。
psalm of destruction. Was that really true? What was the meaning of the blank paperback book? Just what were the apocalyptic psalms of the Book of Gladio?
このままでは
And
滅び
destruction
の結
is
末に至
coming.
るだけ。今、
The only ones
止め
who
られ
can
るのは
stop it are you and
私
me,
と君、
the two of us,
二人しか
and
い
no
ない
one
の。
else.
どうして
Why
僕
the
ら二人
two
な
of
の？
us?
導きよ、
Guidance.
他の黒騎
Some
士
other
は
Black Knights
す
were
でに邪
tainted
神
by
王
the
に
Night
侵
King
食
of
されて
Wicked
しまった。
Hearts. No other Black Knights. Ayase had been covered in blood just a moment ago. Blood she said belonged to another Black Knight. Had she killed them somewhere in the hospital? But then where were the bodies? Ayase walked past me, put her hand on the door.
どこ行くの？
Where are you going?
おしっこよ、
To pee. She answered emotionlessly. I left without waiting for my answer.
Huh?
Alright. I looked around to see if there were any other books from the Gladiel series around, but there weren't. I didn't know how many volumes there were, but the one I had picked up a moment ago was book 17. Books 1 through 16 were nowhere in the room. Obviously, it was possible that she just hadn't brought them with her. But after seeing the blank pages of the book, I found the idea hard to believe. I left the room before Ayase came back. There were several computers in the lobby with internet access. I've been to this I've been to this hospital a few times, so I knew about them. Visiting hours were evidently over, and the lobby was empty. It was so crowded during the day, but now it was almost eerily quiet, and kind of unnerving. I hurried over to the computers before one of the nurses could find me and kick me out. I'm pretty smart. From all my anime, manga, and video games, I know a lot about myths from around the world. But I never heard of the apocalyptic psalms of the Book of Gladio. I've only found out about them when I've been researching Ayase. I decided to search the internet for them. Fair. There was a pretty good sized number of hits. I was surprised at how many. Felt a little frustrated. Like, maybe it was big and I just hadn't known about it. But when I went down the list of hits, I saw they all had one thing in common. They were all about Phantasm or FES. The apocalyptic psalms were always introduced as something FES talked about, or something the band had come up with. The name was there, but nothing else. I couldn't find anything on the actual contents of the book. Gladio Saga. There was a wiki entry, but only had a few lines of basic information. A fictional novel based on Eastern European legends of Gladio, the King of Wicked Hearts. A 23-volume high fantasy series that depicts the war between 7 Black Knights and Gladio, written by R.C.O. Ziegler. Published between 1929 and 1951, and translated into several languages, but often commercially unsuccessful due to its complex writing style. That was all. No other mythology pages were all really fleshed out. This one felt way too empty. It was a little better than the wiki article I'd seen on the D-Sword, but not by much. Since anybody could edit a wiki, it wasn't even clear if what it said was true or not. And the image on the D-Sword page had been totally wrong for one thing. An idea had been going around and around in my head for a while now. Maybe the apocalyptic psalms of the Book of Gladiel were just a project of Ayase's delusion. Was she trying to make her own mythos, like Lovecraft did? Lovecraft had, for lack of a better word, turned his delusions into stories, which he'd spread by publishing them. What if Ayase was trying to do the same thing with her songs? Put that way, it sounded like a really cool thing to do, but all she was actually doing was sharing her crazy nonsense with the rest of the world. And to make matters even worse, she thought it was real, not fiction. Was everything she told me a delusion? Maybe this whole under-the-world thing was just some hidden desire of hers. A lot of otaku could be like that. I'm the key to this world's destruction, you know, goofy stuff like that.
Ah,
Oh,
それは
well,
僕
that
もだ
goes
っ
for
た。
me too. Points for self-awareness, and that's all you got right now. What kind of ending did she want her myth to have? And was it safe for me to believe in her?
信じるも何も。
I guess it didn't
綾
matter.
瀬しかいない
She
じ
was
ゃ
the
な
only
い
one
か。
I've got. Mimi was gone. Senna was a little scary. And Kozupi wasn't somebody you could count on to do anything. So crazy or not, delusional or not, I had no choice but to rely on her. Also, she had a D-Sword. Whatever else was false, that was true. And delusions or not, she prophesied the new gen murders in her songs. Maybe it was possible that her delusions were having an effect on reality? If that was the case, though, that would mean she was incredibly powerful, and I'd be a fool not to use her. Fortunately, although, I had no idea why, she seemed to have taken a liking to me. As long as I didn't take anything she said too seriously, there'd be no problem. Yeah, no problem at all. I went back to her hospital room and pound in the steak. Pound in the steak. Tear through the darkness and bathe in the moonlight. 10,000 iron hammers bringing you pain now unleashed. This is pretty on the nose for the crucified murder, isn't it? Your screams dance in the air, staining the night sky red. Okay, but I'm not over the fact that she killed Nanami and Rimi. Like, I get that, like, it hasn't been super confirmed and denied, but, like, it's kind of surprisingly cheery and pretty for its subjective matter. Is it cheery? I don't think it's really that cheery, but... Ayase was sitting on the bed, eating the meal the nurses had given her. No, was she eating? She was photosynthesizing. It looked like she was sitting there, bored, and humming while she poked her freeze-dried tofu with her chopsticks. Chopsticks? Chopsticks. The song she was singing was a Phantasm one. Shocker. The one that was set to prophesize the third new gen case, Crucified. Yeah, caught on to that one. A bloody contract for your sins. I bought her album, so I knew it. Right now, she wasn't pounding in any steaks. She's pounding, well, stabbing, her freeze-dried tofu, though. Interesting. When she saw me, she smiled slightly, like she was relieved. I thought you weren't coming back. Where did you go? I was looking something up at the computers in the lobby. Stay here tonight.
一緒にい
Stay
て
with me. Wait, seriously? I was so shocked I took a step back. Since when did she like me that much? Don't
お
flatter
腹
yourself.
空いてい
Are
な
you
い
hungry?
食べてもいいわ
You
よ
can eat this if you want. She picked up the tofu with her chopsticks and offered it to me.
そ
Are
れっ
you
て
saying that
綾瀬が
just because you
食べたく
don't
ない
want
だ
to
けじゃ
eat it?
そ
That's
うよ
right. She smiled, just a little.
まずいの
Hospital food isn't
病院
very
食
good.
は
I'm
不
sure it
浄の
must be
邪心に
tainted
染
by
まってい
an
るの
impure wicked heart.
きっと
Was it just me? Or was she badly overusing the phrase wicked heart? Maybe it was just her favorite phrase or something?
邪心に
If
染ま
it's
ってる
tainted
のに
with a wicked
僕は
heart,
食
is
べ
it
てもい
okay
いの
for me to eat it?
普段から邪
You're
心ま
soaking
み
in
れで
wicked
しょ
hearts all the time
Takumi
anyway,
wa.
Takumi.
コンビニのお弁
Convenient
当
store
やカップ麺
lunches and
は
cup noodles are
不
our
浄なる
perfect
食べ物の
examples of
最た
impure
る例よ
foods.
黒騎士として
If
覚
you're
醒
going
す
to
るために
awaken
は
as a Black Knight,
摂取をや
you
める
should
べきだ
stop
わ
eating them.
綾瀬は
What do you
普段は
normally
何を
eat?
食べてるの
チョコレート
Chocolate.
チョコレートって
If anything's
十分
tainted,
邪
it's
心にはまって
probably
そうな気がす
it'd
るけど
probably be chocolate. Wait, did that mean she'd only ever eat 8? I can't read. What? Wait, did this mean that she only ever ate chocolate? That's terrible. That's worse than me.
チョコレートはいいわ
Chocolate is good for you.
邪心を打
Its
ち払う
sweetness has
力
the
を持つ
power
の
to drive away wicked
あの甘さ
hearts.
は
Yeah, bullshit. I might believe in a lot of weird stuff that was going on around me, but no way in hell was I going to believe that.
というわけで
So, there you have it, Takumi.
さ
Come on. She continued to push the freeze-dried tofu in my direction. Did she really just not want to eat it that badly? I wasn't a big fan of freeze-dried tofu myself.
いらない
I'll pass.
それは許されない
Unacceptable.
わ
Why? This isn't fair. Having a girl offer you food like this was supposed to be every guy's dream. So why didn't it feel romantic at all? Because it's not romantic at all. Because Ayase just wanted me to eat the food she didn't want to eat? Or was it because Ayase was 3D? She didn't seem likely to give up on having me eat the tofu, so I put it in my mouth. I bit into it, and taste of the broth. It had been soaked in I bit into it, and the taste of the broth, it had been soaked and spread through my mouth. There we go.
よく頑張ったわ
Excellent.
これで一歩
You've taken one step closer to becoming a Black Knight,
匠
Takumi. Not a chance.
次は
Now the next step is for you to eat this
Kono
braised burdock root. Please, make her stop. After our meal, Ayase had begun a long lecture on the apocalyptic psalms, seemingly oblivious to the fact that the sun had set. She was so into it she forgot to turn on the lights in the room after it got dark. What she said, unfortunately, was just a slightly more detailed version of what she told me before. Most of it I already knew. Yase's voice was always so flat, it made you really sleepy. With Shogun out there, it was dangerous to fall asleep, but still.
というわ
And
けな
that's
の
the
よ
story.
理解で
Do
き
you
た
understand?
あ
Oh,
うん
yeah. I hadn't been listening at all, but I nodded anyway. Yase's eyes narrowed, and she drew closer to me.
聞いてなかった
You
の
weren't
ね
listening, were you?
No.
Could Ayase get mad sometimes too? She didn't look like she was the emotional type. If I made her mad, maybe I should apologize.
それも
And that's because you're
邪心に
tainted
染まっ
with
て
the
いる
wicked
せいよ
heart. More crap about wicked hearts.
先に取り除
Looks
かな
like
くて
we'll
はな
have
らない
to
ようね
remove it first.
君の侵食した邪心をでなければ
Otherwise,
純
you won't
粋
be
なる
able to
邪心
grow
は
a
培
pure
養
wicked
されな
heart.
い
取り除
Remove
く
it? What was she going to do to me? I shivered, imagining some kind of surgery. But that didn't seem to be what she meant, for some reason. She licked her lips seductively. Hello? I got a quick glance at her pink tongue. It looked incredibly sexy. Hello?
君の邪心
I'll
を取
do
り除く
anything
た
it
めなら
takes to get rid of your
何で
wicked
もす
heart.
るわ。望みがあ
Well,
っ
there's
たら
something
言
you
っ
want me
て。
to do. Just say it. Anything. I don't know what it meant to remove a wicked heart, but... how about this? Kiss
キスで
me
もしてもらおうか。
Even with the darkness, I could see her frown. Ugh, maybe I got a little overboard. I thought that maybe she started to hate me and abandon me, so I went to quickly apologize. But she grabbed me by the collar before I could. Then she dragged me into the closet. The closet?
ちょ、
But
何を
what are you doing?
し
Shh. Yasi pressed her body up against mine. She closed the closet door, squeezing the both of us together inside. It was tiny. There wasn't room for 2 people inside. I was uptight against her body, with nowhere to move. And I could hear her quiet breathing in my ear, too. The darkness made me feel terribly excited.
どうした
What is it?
看護師の
The
見回
nurse
り
was making her rounds. Oh, so that's why we were hiding. Visitors weren't allowed up this time of night. Certainly not allowed to sleep here. If I was found, I'd be kicked out. But how is that supposed to work if Ayase hid with me? I was wondering that.
この病院にも
We have many
Thank you,
enemies here in
Oiwa.
this hospital.
Te-
Enemies?
グラジオールを
Servants
使
of
い
Gladio,
私たち
They
の
lurk in
心
the
を支配
shadows,
しようと
waiting for a
虎
chance
視
to
眈
control
々と
our
狙ってい
hearts.
るのよ。
Was she saying the nurse was an enemy? I mean, the nurse is an enemy, but, you know...
それって
Are
ただ
you
の
sure
被
you're
害
not just
妄想
being paranoid?
静かに
Yes, I suddenly put her lips over mine. Oh, okay. That's a pretty, that's a large amount of light in the closet. Anyways. Can't deal with those sounds in my ears. Stop. And give you all the softness of her lips. The shock made my mind go completely blank. The light is figurative? I'm not sure about that. And just then, the door opened. I heard a strange sound too. Somebody came in, making no noise as they walked.
いないわ。
She was not here. I heard a woman's voice. It was one I'd heard somewhere before, but I couldn't remember where.
逃げられたのか
Did
し
she
ら。
run away?
まさか。
She can't have
私たちの
realized
正
who
体に
we
気づ
are,
かれた。
can she? Hello?
ええ、
Yes.
不用
Perhaps I
意に
was too
接触し
careless
す
in
ぎたのか
making
もしれない。
contact with her. She seemed to be talking to somebody, but I couldn't hear who. Was she talking on a phone then? Yase's lips were still pressed against mine. He smelled something sweet. Yase smelled so good. And it wasn't just her lips, her chest, her shoulders, her hips, her thighs, her hair. They were all so soft. There might be someone dangerous just beyond the closet door, but my mind was going totally blank as I gave myself over to the pleasure.
そっちの処理は
Was
済んだ。
everything finished on your end?
そう、
I see.
これ
So
から
it's
な
just
の。
about to begin then.
わかったわ。
Understood.
私は
I'm
スク
heading
ラ
to
ンブル
Scramble
交差点に向
Crossing.
かうから。
Ah,
それじゃあね、
goodbye.
守る。
Naoru.
あなた
May
に
the divine
信
light
仰の
save
救
you.
いあれ。
The conversation seemed to have ended. A moment later, the suspicious woman wordlessly left the hospital room. There was no sign of anybody outside the room. It should be safe to go home now. But Ayase still wouldn't let me go. She moved her lips away for just a moment as she looked at me with dewy eyes.
匠、
Takami,
私は導きで、
I am the guide.
君が
You are the
救世
savior.
主。そう決まっ
And
て
thus
いる。
has fate decided.
だから
So,
何をして
you
もい
can
い
do
のよ
whatever you want
私
to
に
me.
叶えてあげる
I'll
わ
grant your wish,
君の
no matter what
ど
it
んな
might
望み
be.
でも
I didn't understand what she was saying. I thought it might be another one of my delusions, but I didn't really mind.
匠
Takumi.
匠
Takumi. Ayase kissed me again, and this time, she brought her wet tongue between my teeth and into my mouth, and wrapped itself around my own. I stopped caring about everything. I wrapped my hands around Ayase's lithe, slender body. I gave myself over to the pleasure. No, stop. I heard her to breathe a little. I sucked up her hot breath. Stop. Her saliva came pouring into my mouth. It was very sweet. I gulped it down, loudly. My brain felt paralyzed, like it was going numb. The pleasures of the 3D world were beyond what I could handle. Well, that was a sound. I heard a sound in the distance. Ayase gasped and moved herself away from me.
今の音は
What was that sound? I don't know. Where are the D swords? Her lips were wet with the mix of our saliva. Even in the darkness, I could see that much. Forget the sound. Let's go back to kissing, and hopefully more. Yahoo! My virgin Yahoo! My virgin days are finally over. Kitakore or something like that. Shut up, dude. But wait a second. Had Ayase done something like this with other guys? Wouldn't it be disgusting if she wasn't a virgin? Buddy, shut, okay. Yeah, H games have rotted your brain. Good job, buddy. No, she has to be a virgin. No, she does not. Nobody would possibly want to date somebody this crazy. You don't have to date to fuck. Hell, even Misumi had practically run away screaming. Misumi ran away screaming because she was covered in blood. You know, fight, flight, or freeze. You froze, he flew. Like,
ヘラヘラしていな
stop
いで
grinning like that,
Takumi.
Takumi.
さあせん
Sorry. What a loser. Good. Thank God. Suddenly, she slapped me. The giddiness I was feeling faded instantly. Thank goodness. I started to get a little nervous. I thought I was going to cry, actually. Ayase was looking at me sternly. I grabbed onto her.
ごめ
I'm
ん
sorry.
嫌わない
Don't
で
hate me.
邪神に支配
Don't
さ
let
れ
your
るので
wicked
はな
heart
く
control you.
邪神を
You
己に
need to
取り込む
control
の
it.
でなければ
Otherwise,
黒騎士
you'll
として
never
目覚め
awaken
るこ
as
と
a
はで
Black
きない
Knight.
それを忘れない
Don't
で
forget that. Okay. It still wasn't clear what a wicked heart was, but the reason I was so giddy was that Ayase had kissed me, at least as I saw it. I didn't think it was a good idea to point that out, though. Where are the D swords?
行くわよ
Let's go.
どこへ
Where?
銃声だったわ
That sound was a
さっきの音
gunshot. A gunshot? A gunshot here? In Japan? Sure, it kinda sounded like one, but I'd only ever heard gunshots in games and movies. It didn't feel real.
銃声だ
If
っ
it
た
was
と
a
して
gunshot, then
何を
why are
しに
we
行くの
going towards it?
これもまた
This is in the
予言にあったわ
prophecy, too.
すでに邪
And the
神王
battle
との
with the
戦
King
いは
of Wicked
始まって
Hearts
いる
is
のよ
beginning.
黒騎士の
And the
心は
minds of the
殺され
Black
てい
Knights are
く
being destroyed.
だから回収す
So
る
we're
の
going to recover it.
理想度
The D sword.
私たちにできるのは
That's
そ
all
れ
we
だけ
can do. The Black Knights were being killed? Did the gunshot mean somebody had been shot?
警察
The
に
police?
ダメよ
No.
警
The
察も
police
邪
are
神に
ruled
支
by
配さ
wicked
れてしまっ
hearts
てい
too.
る
Crazy. No, crazy didn't even begin to cover it. Yase was way beyond just crazy. The apocalyptic psalms were her delusion. Everything she was saying was part of her delusion. What kind of ending did she want her story to have? What was I supposed to do?
ついてきて
Follow me,
Takumi.
Takumi. Yase left the room, alone. I hesitated to follow her. Where are the D swords? Suddenly, I realized. The 3 D swords near the window still had vanished. Finally. Ayase must have taken them. When? I bit my lip, and after another moment's hesitation, I followed her. Ayase headed straight toward the roof, almost as if she knew exactly where the gunshot had come from. The roof of the hospital was a small garden. There were planters with blooming flowers, but it was too dark to see what color they were. I hid behind Ayase and looked around. I couldn't see anyone here. Nothing was moving. Had this really been where the gunshot had come from? And if so, who was the shooter? Normal Japanese people don't have guns.
やっぱり
Let's
戻ろう
go
よ。
back.
もし撃た
I
れた
don't
らま
want
ず
to
いよ。
get shot. Ayase wasn't listening to me. Of course not. She walked deeper into the garden. I had no choice but to follow. I could see a blurry blue light in front of us. It was very pale, as if it was about to disappear, but it was shining and flashing.
理想度だ
A
わ。
D-sword. Yep, that's a D-sword, alright. It was elegant, but at the same time, had a sharpness to it that seemed to reject the entire world around it. It felt bizarre, like it wasn't of this world. Next to the D-sword stabbed into the concrete, I could see two people lying on the ground. I recognized them both.
ユア
Yua. The girl dressed in a Suime uniform lying face up was definitely Yua. What was she doing here? The other was a middle-aged man. I remembered him. He was the one who questioned me after the crucified case. Both of them weren't moving. I approached them tremblingly. There was a pool of blood forming under both of them. I quickly left back, but it was too late. Sticky crimson liquid had soaked into the bottom of my shoes. The detective's body was particularly bloody. I didn't see any injuries on Yua's body. What had happened here? What were the two of them doing together? I could understand why a detective would have a gun, but who had shot this guy? Was it Yua? So many doubts were filling my head that I had trouble processing what I was seeing. Completely bewildered, I turned to Ayase for help. Ayase walked toward Yua, a frown on her face. She paid no attention at all to the detective. She knelt down next to Yua, being careful not to step on the blood, putting a finger up against her neck. Sophie. I'm glad you're happy, though.
脈はある。
She's breathing.
まだ生きているわ。
She's alive.
だけど
But
死んでいる。
her mind is
心
dead.
は。そっちの男の人はもうダ
Looks
メな
like
よ
it's
う
too late. Her voice was calm, as always.
で
How can you
そんな
be
落
so
ち着いていら
calm?
れるんだ
People are
人が
dead.
死んでるんだぞ
I mean, Takumi, people die when they're killed.
言ったでしょ
I told you.
予言されてい
This
た
is
からよ
prophesized. What do you mean prophesized?
綾瀬が
Are
望
you
んだ
sure
妄
it's
想
not
じゃ
the
ないの
delusion you wanted? It might be.
そうかもしれないわね
There's no
そ
way
れを
to
確
tell,
かめる術
though.
はないけれど
そんな
That's horrible.
構わないわ
It doesn't
原
matter
因が何だ
what the
ろうと
cause is. I mean... Ayase stood up. And pulled her own D-sword out of the empty air. She brought the shining red blade near the D-sword stuck into the ground. There was an awful resonating noise, at a piercing, high frequency, like somebody was stabbing a pig into my ear and jerking it around. Then, the two D-swords blended together. The way they melted together ignored all laws of physics. It was like a liquid, but also like clay. And it kept changing shape violently, like they were thrashing in pain. The resonating noise got louder. I put my hands over my ears, but it did nothing. Upgrade! The air exploded. The next thing I knew, the D-sword had moved from the ground to Yase's left hand. Ayase didn't look so good. For once, her expression looked like she was in pain. But then she smiled at me. Her cheeks were a little flushed, like something had excited her.
4本目よ。
And this is the fourth
Good.
sword. There's a dead body right in front of us. The person who shot the detective might be lurking up here. Why was the sword more important than any of that? Because it was needed for the ending Ayase wanted? Defeating Gladiel with the 7 D swords? Was Gladiel even real?
ギガロマニアックス
Every
となったものは
Giglio-maniac has been broken once in
誰
the
だろうと
past.
一度は壊れているんだよ。
I remembered what Senna said. Ayase was as broken as the rest of them. Did that mean I was gonna end up the same way someday? Oh buddy, you're already there. No, not someday. I'd already broken a long time ago. Yep. Ayase made the D-swords vanish. They disappeared, melting into the air.
あの、このこ
Are
と
we
警
going
察
to
に
call
通
the
報するの？
cops? Neo is my enemy. Leaving her here with this dead guy wouldn't make me feel guilty in the slightest. But I stepped in the blood. I looked down and saw that my footprints were clearly visible in the concrete. The police might easily think I was the killer.
通報はしないわ。
He won't. That was a relief, at least. Ayase looked up at the night sky. Her expression was still stern.
そろそろね。
I think it's about time. Time? Time for what?
グラジオールが
Gladiel will soon
間もなく
awaken.
目覚めるわ。
According to the Ziegler's
ツイグラ
prophecy,
の予言によれば
that is.
心して
Be ready,
匠
Takumi.
最悪に
The
包まれ
world
るの
will be enveloped by disaster.
君は
You're going to
見
see
た
a
ことも
world
ない
you've
世
never
界を見
seen
ることに
before.
なる。でも
But
乗り
you
越え
must
て
stand fast,
そうしなければ
or you won't be able
グ
to
ラジオー
defeat
ルを倒せ
Gladiel.
ない。
Her voice was shaking. Ayase, the girl who wasn't afraid of anything, was scared. Was something that terrible about to happen? Or was she envisioning it in her mind and trying to make it real?
まだ心の
I'm
準備
not
が
ready.
だったら
Then
急い
get
で。
ready.
もう時
There's
間
not
がない
much
わ。
time left. Come on, don't say that. How am I supposed to get ready when I don't even know what's going to happen?
世界は誘
The
拐
worlds
し
are about to melt
連
and
結が
link
始ま
together
る。
as one. She whispered to no one in particular, looking up at the sky. I looked up, too, and saw that a point in the sky had turned white. It was a brilliant white, out of place in the darkness of night. What was that? Then I remembered. Hadn't the sky turned white like that during the last earthquake? The white began to spread. I couldn't tell what, but something about it made me feel very afraid. I gulped.
グラジオールが
Gladiel has awakened. Trembling. The building was shaking. No, it wasn't just the building. Everything was shaking. The white in the sky was spreading further and further. The next thing that hit me was the terrible ringing in my ears, like the resonating sound from the D-swords a moment ago. Felt like my head was about to explode from within. And then... the whole world turned white. Was this a dream? The sky was red. It had been white a moment ago. But now the whole world was a rusted red. This must be a dream. A delusion like all the other ones. That's why I decided to tell myself. I could see black puffs of mist here and there. I felt like they were shaped like humans. It had to be a hallucination, but it looked bizarrely real. They were shimmering, slowly, in irregular patterns. One would disappear, only to appear a moment later somewhere else. There were many of them. Just looking at them made me feel upset somehow. Something smelled terrible. I felt like I was going to throw up. I didn't want to be here for a second longer than I had to. I had a strong, overwhelming desire to get out. When I woke up, the sky was bright, and Shibuya was a city of death. AH General Hospital hadn't collapsed, luckily, but there were huge cracks in the walls, and the inside was a mess. The lobbies of the outpatient wing were filled with the wounded, some who had been brought here by ambulance, and some who walked here on their own. They were all demanding to be the first to see the doctor. Oh boy. When I woke up, Ayase smiled and told me we were going back to Shibuya. I asked her what time it was, and she said around 6 in the morning. I would have been unconscious for 10 hours or so then. I couldn't see Yua anywhere. I asked Ayase, but she said she didn't know. The train ride from Yoyogi to Shibuya takes less than 5 minutes. But the aftershocks from the quake had shut the trains down entirely. The tracks were an absolute mess. They wouldn't be coming back online today. We were forced to walk, but the streets were cracked and caved in, and blocked entirely with rubble from fallen buildings. A straight path was impossible. It took us almost 3 hours to get to Shibuya Station. The area around the station was a mess. Most of the buildings had fallen. The number of bodies was unbelievable, and the way they died was too horrible to look at. Some people were still moving. Some people were walking with the looks of shock on their face, like us. Others were crouched next to the rubble and waiting for help. Some of them were clinging to the dead and crying. None of them living had the energy left to even look at them. The shock had drained all the energy from their bodies. The strong smell of blood, the smell of dust, and the foul smell of something rotting filled the air. What was this Gladiel's doing? Maybe Gladiel was an earthquake? In America, they give human names to hurricanes, like Andrew or Katrina. Was this the ending that Ayase had wanted? Maybe it was the perfect ending for an apocalyptic fantasy. But even if Ayase was a gigglemaniac, or what she called a Black Knight, could she really cause this huge earthquake all on her own? She talked about worlds melting and linking. What did that mean? I took a quick look at her. She was a few steps in front of me. This was enough to rattle even her, from the look of it. She bit her lip as if it would help her endure the pain, and walked on silently. Hey everyone! It's dangerous here! Let's get to a shelter! No shit, it's dangerous here. The speaker was a middle-aged man in a suit. A good number of people were still alive, including us. He seemed to be speaking to the survivors. We'll be here all day if we wait for a rescue. But if we can get to the shelters, we'll be fine. It'll be a lot better than staying here. I know it's hard, but stand up and let's go. We have a duty to live on, for the sake of the ones who died here. The guy had a lot of energy, I thought. Several of the people around him must have agreed with him, though, as they began to slowly walk toward him. Most, however, didn't. Ayase ignored him. She seemed to be heading somewhere. I had no choice but to go with her. I felt a stabbing pain in my temples. The same pain had hit me several times on the way here from Yoyogi. Please, everyone, stand up. Why can't you understand that? This place is dangerous. What if you get crushed by rubble? I want all of you to survive. My head hurts. Oh my. What's going on? The sky suddenly turned red. I looked up and saw reddish bronze clouds in the sky. That's what I'd seen in my dream. Asphalt road, the concrete rubble, the buildings, the glass on the ground, lampposts broken at their bases. They're all covered in rust. Hello? I heard an insane laugh. It was the man who'd been trying to get everyone to evacuate. There was what looked like a black mist wrapped around his body. No, it wasn't just him. Everyone here except the dead had that same mist coming out of their bodies. The mist was the same size as a person. It was slowly wavering. It seemed curiously alive, and something about it just made me feel sick. This was the same as my dream, too. I hate when sneeze. The man's laugh was pissing me off. I turned over to him, and for some reason, there was an assault rifle in his hands. Oh boy. There are no cops here now. I can kill anybody I want. Oh boy. He suddenly started firing the gun. I dropped down. I'd been shot. At least, I thought I had been. I was right in front of him when he'd been firing. But I didn't feel any pain. I looked up, terrified. There's water, food, and blankets at the shelter. There's no point in staying here. He didn't have a gun. He was yelling to the people around him. Come on. Find the strength to live. You don't want to die here. The change was instant. The man had been shouting with his fist in the air. There was a burst of static and suddenly he was holding a gun. That wasn't how human beings worked. There was a gap between one movement and another. It didn't feel real at all. It was like watching two separate videos that had been badly spliced together. He fired his gun again. The people around me were falling over, blood spurting from bullet wounds. There were screams all over the square. But for some reason, none of the bullets touched me. I felt like I was watching a movie. It didn't feel real.
Takumi.
Takumi. When Ayase said my name, everything went back to normal. She was staring at me. She looked like she wanted to say something, but instead, she just turned her back to me and started walking. I looked up at the sky. It was cloudy, but it wasn't red. A dull gray light lit up everything around me. It wasn't rusty red. The man with the gun was still calling for people to go to the shelters. The people he shot were unharmed. I couldn't see any black mist anywhere. What did I just see? Another delusion? The same as always? If so, my imagination sure as hell wasn't what it used to be. Delusion just now didn't feel real at all. It was like a movie or a video game.
Takumi.
Takumi.
早く来て。
Hurry up. Ayase motioned me onward. Where was she going? Was she headed to a shelter, like the man had been saying? As it turned out, she wasn't. For some reason, she headed into the Enokashira line station. No staff were there, and the trains weren't moving. She got down onto the tracks and started to walk alongside them. The tunnel was dark and poorly lit. This is a place where most people would never be allowed in their entire lives. It hadn't collapsed yet, but there was no telling when it would. Yesterday, I never would have imagined being able to do something like this. An adventure alongside the train tracks would make for a great movie. Wait, wasn't there already a movie like that? It was from before I was born, so of course I'd never seen it. All I knew was that it was about walking along train tracks in search of a dead body. Actually, I guess the subway tunnel wasn't a very good movie set. Not much to see. The tunnel would have taken us to Shinsen, then Komabata Tomadai Mae. Let's try that again. Komaba Todai Mae. There we go. Then after that, Ikanoe and Shimiko. That's a long one. Shimokitazawa. If you wanted a way to get out of Shibuya, following the train tracks like this would be a good way to do it. But we walked all the way back here from Yoyogi, which was a good distance away from Shibuya's center. It was safe to assume that whatever Ayase was doing, she wasn't trying to escape Shibuya.
どこ
Where
へ
are
行く
you
の
going?
深センの駅よ。
Shinsen Station. What would she want to do there? Was she planning on heading to school? Or maybe she wanted to go to the base, but Ayase didn't know where I lived. I suddenly wondered if Seiratan was safe. What would I do if the Kurenai building had collapsed in the earthquake and my wives were buried in rubble? I had more important things to worry about now, though. I could see a light up ahead. There was a railway crossing out past the tunnel where you could see the sky. Past it, the tracks enter the building again, and that's where the platforms were. The lights on the platform were out because of the earthquake. It was dark inside. It was almost entirely empty. I could only see 2 people sitting on the platform. In their clothes. They were both female students from Suime. Ayase walked straight toward them. Did she know them? Maybe. As I got closer, I could see them clearly even in the darkness. My eyes narrowed. Hadn't I seen them before? I quickly realized who they were. It was Sana and Kozupi. But something was wrong. They must have heard my footsteps, but they didn't move to look up. They were just sitting there, unmoving. Senna. Kozupi. I called out their names, and they didn't move. What was going on?
黒騎士の
The
心が
minds of
殺
the
され
Black
ていく。
Knights are being destroyed.
だから回収するの。
I'm going to recover
Sword.
them. The D swords. No way. That's impossible. I ran over to them. Oop. I looked into Senna's slumped forward face. Senna's eyes were lifeless. There was no light in them at all. The bright light in her eyes, so when she'd glare at you, was nowhere to be seen. She was whispering something in a voice so soft, I could barely hear it, but I couldn't make out what she was saying. Kozupi was the same. There's no light in her eyes. Drool was falling from her lips, and she was emitting a soft, wordless moan. What had happened to the 2 of them? What was going on in Shibuya? I looked over to Ayase, hoping she could answer my questions, but she didn't seem to care about them at all. Her eyes were on their D-swords, which were lying on the ground next to them. She brought her own D-sword close to them. I heard the awful resonance sound again. The 3 D-swords changed shape. It was a shockwave like a blast of wind. And it was gone. Sana and Kozupi's D-swords were in Yase's hands.
これで6
Now we
本
have
揃った。
6. Yase's cheeks were red, like she was excited. She was staring at me.
匠、あと
Takumi,
は君
you're
が
the
手に
only
入れる
one
だけよ。
left. I'm sorry. What isn't going on in Shibuya? More like happy fun things for one. So true. So true. How could she be so calm? I started to snap at her, but just then, the stabbing pain in my head came back. The world turned red. Everything rusted and rotted. A terrible smell was coming from Kozupi. She slowly stood up. Her entire body was red. Was it blood? Was it rust?
殺してやる。
I'll kill you. She looked up. The black mist was covering her face. I could feel her intense desire to murder me. Her thin arms reached out, as if to strangle me. I blinked, and Kozupi was sitting on the ground again. I couldn't see her face because she was slumped forward.
殺してやる。
I'll kill you. Static. And Kozupi was right beside me. The black mist touched my shoulder. It was so cold. I shivered.
みんな殺してやる。
I'll kill you. All.
匠ちゃんも
Takumi.
鏡
I'll
で
rip you
二つだ
apart with the mirror. Her voice was emotionless, machine-like, and so it made it scarier than usual. I blinked. Senna's body was being ripped apart. Kazuki was bringing down a shard of broken glass on Senna's head. Dark red blood stained Senna's pretty black hair. Kazuki raised the glass again and stabbed. Static. Now Kazuki was unmoving, but Senna had come to life. Senna was crouched on top of a prone, homeless man who hadn't been there a minute ago. Her head was pressed up against his shoulder. He was moving up and down, twitching. What was she doing? Her hair was covering her face, and I couldn't see. Suddenly, Senna raised up her head. The man's shoulder was covered in blood. I could see the raw, exposed meat, the pink glistening muscle. No, it was that blood. Muscle. Rust.
母
Daddy.
I
You're
hear.
yummy. Senna turned around. Her mouth was covered in blood. She was chewing something. I felt dizzy and fell forward. Then the world was back to normal. The headache was gone. I put a hand to my forehead and shook my head a little. It felt awful, like I was going to vomit. There was no terrible shock or instant feeling of terror, but something like a poison was working its way through my body. A sick feeling that wouldn't go away. I looked up at Senna and Kozupi again. The two of them were sitting there, unmoving.
どうしたの？
What's wrong? Ayase offered me a hand. She looked like she wanted to say something again. I took her hand and stood up. We left Senna and Kozupi where they were. I wanted to help them, but didn't feel like I had the strength to do it. And Ayase didn't seem to care. We headed back to Shibuya Station. We encountered several injured people on our way back. A whole bunch of dead bodies, too. Ayase was looking up at the sky, tense. I resisted the urge to throw up and spoke to her.
綾瀬は
What kind of
どんな
ending
結末を望
do
む
you
の？
want?
結末？
Ending? Yu was missing. Senna and Kozupi had their minds destroyed. Ayase had taken the D-swords from all the Giglio-maniacs. Well, stolen would be more accurate. And Ayase was the one who had set it up to happen too. Could I be sure it wasn't Ayase? Had she just been lucky enough to have every single Giglio-maniac with a D-sword conveniently have their minds destroyed just before she got there? Not a chance in hell. And if Ayase had set that up, the earthquake was her doing. Gladio was a myth that Ayase had created.
この
Can you be
地震
sure
が
that this earthquake
綾瀬
was
の
a
妄想じゃないって言い
delusion?
切れる。
That this is what you wanted, right?
望んでたんでしょ？
そうね。
Yes.
なんでこんなこと？
Why?
匠、
Takumi,
結
don't be
論
in
を
such
急
a
がな
hurry
い。
to reach a conclusion.
すでに予言
My
されてい
prophecy
たの。
has already been
スイ
written
ムラにあっ
by
て。
Ziegler.
私はそれを知ってい
I
た。
know of it.
ただそれだけ。
That's all.
グラ
The
ディオ
Gladio book is just your
綾瀬の妄想じゃない
delusion.
か。そんな本
There's
どこにも存
no
在しな
such
いよ。
book.
匠も見たはずよ
You。saw it in my room.
私の病室で。
ああ
Yeah,
見たよ
I saw
で
it,
もあれは
but the pages were empty.
匠に見えて
You
いな
just
かった
couldn't
だ
see
け
the
よ。
words.
そんなの
That's bullshit. You're lying.
僕を
Are you
騙そうっ
trying
て
to
いうの
trick
か。
me?
世界は
There are 6.7 billion words.
つまり
One for
人
every
類の
human
全
being.
人口よ。異なっている
And
の。
every world is different.
それぞれの見ている世界は全く同一
None
であ
of
る
them
こと
were
はない。
identical.
匠と
It's
私
the
も
same
そう
for you and me.
それが
If
本当だって
that's
言うなら
true, show me your
そう出
source.
してよどうせ
You
無理なん
can't,
でしょ
can you? Ayase stared at me, her eyes narrowed. It wasn't like she didn't know what to say. It was more like she was trying to keep her feelings from showing.
見たいの
Do you want to see it?
私が見ている世
The
界を
world I see?
できるなら
If
野球
you
や
could
ってみ
show
て
me, then show me!
たとえ見せられ
Even
て
if
も
you did, I
信
still
じない
wouldn't
だろうけ
believe
ど
it though.
違うわ
No,
匠
Takumi.
君は
You're already seeing it.
すでに見ている私の世界
And I
と
wrote in
君
yours.
は少しずつ
We're starting to
同期し始めて
synchronize.
いるのよ
何を
What? The world turned to rust again. I could see a black mist hovering over the people on the ground. It is kind of nuts that the world has gained roughly 2 billion people in population since this game came out. Yeah. There was a child crushed under the rubble. His head was poking out. A man who looked like his father was trying to save him. Static. The father was stamping his foot onto the child's head. The boy's skull was split open like a watermelon. Blood and brains were everywhere. More static. The boy's head was unharmed. The father was shouting to him, "Hang in there, I'll get you out." Static. The boy wasn't under the rubble anymore. He was screaming at his father, "Get your ass moving, you old geezer!" and was stabbing him with a knife. A short distance away, a young man and woman were sitting on the ground. They were huddled together under a blanket. The static wrapped itself around them, and the man was raping the woman. The woman's screams echoed off the broken street. Her screams disappeared at another burst of static. The two of them were sitting there, silently. The middle-aged women were slowly moving down the street. They looked like sisters. A burst of static, and one was yanking another by the hair. She was pulling hard, dragging her down the street. Tufts of hair were being ripped out. More static, and everything was normal.
なんだよ
What
これ
is this?
私の世界
I
は
wrote. No wonder why you're crazy. This... it was her delusion, not mine? Or was it a delusion at all? Was it real? I could see the black mist around Ayase's chest too. I looked away, trying to keep it out of my field of vision.
匠の見ていた空
And
は
what color was your
どんな
sky?
色をしていた
どんな
It was blue,
青い
of course.
あんな色
Like that. Ayase pointed at the sky. It was red.
あれは
That's
赤
red
土色だ
bronze.
灼
Red
土
bronze.
あの色は
That's not blue
青
then.
じゃないのね
どこからど
It's
う見ても
definitely
青空
not
じゃないよ
blue.
常識的に考えて
Obviously.
でも
But
私にとっては
that's blue.
あの色が青なのは
What are you talking about?
匠は説明で
Can
き
you
るの
explain blue?
青色って
What kind of color is
どんな
blue?
色
どんなっ
What
て
kind of color?
だから
It's the
空
color
の
of the sky.
あの色の空
It's
し
the
か
only
知らないの
color
よ
I've ever seen the sky have.
みんな青が
Everybody
どんな色
knows
かぐらい
what blue
知
looks
ってるでし
like.
ょ
だから説明
Explain
して
that
例
without
えに
using
使わずに
examples.
青が
What kind of color
ど
is
んな
blue?
色なのか
Without using examples? I thought, but got nowhere. I couldn't come up with any way to explain the color blue. Ayase looked sad when she saw my reaction.
世界は
There are
約
6.7
67
billion
億
worlds.
ある
That's what I
そう
said,
言ったはず
right?
よ空の色も
The sky has 6.7
67
billion
億通りある
colors.
みんな
Not everyone
見ているも
necessarily
のが同
sees
じ
the
だ
same
とは
sky.
限らないわ
Everything turned back to normal. This color was my sky.
綾瀬は
You spent your whole
ずっとあん
life
な世界を
seeing that
見てきた
world. She gave me a soft nod.
生まれた時からず
Ever
っと
since I was born,
それが
I thought it
当
was
たり前の
normal,
ことだと思っていたわ。
just how the world
世界も
was.
でも違うのね。
Well, that's not true, is
今
it?
匠の
After
話
hearing
を
what you
聞いて
said, I
理解
finally
できたわ。
understand.
あの黒いも
What
や
is
は
that
何なの？
black mist?
写真
The wicked hearts.
誰でも持っている
Every
もの
human
なら
has them.
人ならば
These wicked hearts are what feed
そして
Gladio
この
and
写
give
真
him
が
shape.
グラジオールの糧となり形を見えた
Could you see them?
人々の負の
People's
妄
negative
想が
delusions? Was that what I was seeing when I saw the static? And then all those people were doing all those terrible things?
私は昔から
I've always seen
見
them.
てきた。黒騎士な
All
ら
the
ば
Black Knights
程
can
度の
see
差があ
them
って
to
も
a greater
み
or
んな見え
lesser
ているはず
degree.
よ。そこにあるのは
What you're seeing is
Mukidashi
raw,
no aku.
exposed evil,
むき出し
raw,
の欲望。
exposed desire. So Ayase had been seeing that world since the day she was born.
匠、
Takumi,
私が望む結
the
末
ending I
は
want
この錆びついた
is
世
for
界
my
か
soul
ら
to escape from this
魂ごと
rusted
脱ぎ出すこ
world.
と。そのために
For
は
that to happen,
グラジオールを倒
I
さな
must
ければ
defeat
ならないの
Gladio.
よ。
Ayase walked over to me.
だから
So,
見つけて、
find it.
あとは匠だけ
You're
な
the
の。
only one left.
理想像を
Find your T-sword.
見つけて。
I can't! I grabbed Ayase's shoulder and pushed her away. Ayase's eyes went wide, like she was shocked by what I'd done.
なぜ
Why?
諦
Are
め
you
るの？
giving up?
僕は
I'm not the
綾瀬が思う
special
ほど
person you
す
think
ご
I
い人
am.
間じゃない。どれだけ望んでも
No matter how hard I
理想
try,
度が
I don't
手
get
に入る
anywhere.
兆候すらないじゃないか。オーフロン
Even
ト
at
の
the
時
whole
も
front
そうだっ
building,
たし、
I couldn't get it.
地震が
Not
起きて
even
からも
after
そう
the
だ。
earthquake.
方法がわ
I
からな
don't
い
know
んだ。
how to do it.
理想
I'll
度なん
never
て
get the D-sword.
手に入れられないよ。自信がないよ。
I just can't.
それなら
And then why
なぜ
did you
私を
save
助けた
me?
の？
Ayase approached me again, with a new forcefulness in her step. I backed away.
ちょ
To save you?
一体
What are
何
you
のこと
talking about?
私が学
When I
校の
jumped
屋上
off
か
the
ら
roof
飛び降
of
りた
the
時
school,
君が
you created a
花壇
world
のあ
where
る
there
世
was a
界を生み
flower
出
bed
した
below.
だから私
And
は
that's why I wasn't
一つ
able
上
to
のステー
move
ジ
my
に魂を
soul
移
to the
すことは
next
できなかった
stage.
わ。
It was just luck. I didn't even mean to do it,
それでもいいと
but I
思っ
was
た。
fine with that
君の力を
because it showed me
知
your
ることが
power.
できたから。あの時から
Ever since then,
君が私の希望
became
に
my
なったから。
please don't have any hopes for me. Don't expect me to do anything.
匠、
Takumi,
自
don't
分を非にし
underestimate
ないで。
yourself.
それは邪
When
神
you're
王の
experiencing
精
this
神
psychic
侵略
invasion from the king of
負け
wicked
てはいけ
hearts,
ないの。
you can't let him defeat you.
君には力
You
が
have
あ
the
る。
power.
確
I
実
know
に
you do.
手に入れられ
You
る。
can find it.
必ず
You will find it.
理想度
Find your D-sword.
無理
I can't.
無
I
理だよ。
just can't. I thought I could stay with Ayase. I thought she was the only one who could protect me. And now after spending time with her, I understood. I couldn't stay with her after all. The world she saw was just too different from my own. To be perfectly blunt, she was too crazy for me. I'm a piece of shit, aren't I? But I am who I am.
なぜそんなこ
Why are
とを
you
言うの？
saying these things? She was clinging to me with tears in her eyes. The cool, unemotional girl like me was nowhere to be seen.
私は
I don't
こん
want
な
to be
世
in
界
this
にい
world.
たくない。
Please,
お願い、
release me.
解放して。私の
Be
希望に
my
なって。
hope.
黒騎士として
Awaken as the Black Knight.
無理だ
I
よ。
can't.
無理じゃないわ。
You can. Yase's world synchronized with mine again. The black mist flowed out of her chest and wrapped around my body. It was like an anaconda, encircling its prey to squeeze and kill it. I could feel its awfulness up against my skin. It was Ayase's raw, exposed desire. It wasn't. Nobody was used to seeing the exposed emotions of other human beings. Static.
君は私の
You
希望
are my hope. Ayase was staring at me. Her eyes were pitch black.
君を離
I
さない
won't
わ
let you go.
つなぎ止め
I'll keep you with me,
どんな
no
手を
matter
使
what
っ
I
てでも
have to do. Her fingers started unbuttoning my blazer buttons, one by one.
君が欲しい
I want you. She pressed herself up against me, like she had done when she kissed me in the closet. I was frozen solid. I couldn't move. All the buttons were undone, and she opened my shirt. She then began to loosen my belt and over the zipper of my pants. Oh boy.
君
I want you. Power.
欲しい
Her cold hands ran across the skin on my chest. And then she dug her nails in. The pain was awful, but I still couldn't move.
欲しい
I want it. The fingers dug into my flesh, went between my bones, and gently ground my beating heart. I was shaking from fear, from pain, from the coldness of her hands.
あったか
So warm.
い俺は
I'm taking this. Alright? Stop. I could feel the blood vessels bursting. Blood poured out from my chest. She was taking it. She was taking my heart. Literally. The world suddenly changed color. Everything was dim and blurry again. The red bronze color was gone. My body was unharmed. I had my hand to my chest. I put my hand to my chest, rather, and I could feel my heartbeat. My heart was right there. She was standing in front of me. Her expression looked so sad, like she might cry again at any moment. Again. When she'd taken the D-sword from Yuan, when I'd first seen her world at Scramble Crossing, when she'd taken the D-sword from Senna and Kozupi, she always looked at me like she was trying not to cry. Takumi,
そんなつもりじゃ
you didn't need to.
写真を
I'm losing
信用
control
できなくなってい
of
る
my own wicked heart.
私も取り込みすぎた
I
せい
may
かも
have
しれな
taken
い
too many D-swords
理想度
inside myself.
写真王の
The
精
psychic
神侵
invasion
食
of
で
the king of wicked
私は
hearts
お
was
かしくな
driving
り
me
つつある
crazy. Crazy? I was crazy once. Wasn't that all just part of your delusion? Everything you're telling me is a lie, isn't it? Words came to my mind, but I didn't say them. I couldn't say them. Yase was always so cold, so reserved. She never had any kind of expression on her face at all, but now she looked so sad. She was showing me how fragile she truly was.
僕は
What
どうす
do I
ればいい
do? A very small tear ran from the corner of her eye. She was looking at me desperately.
私
I
は
was taking over.
支配されつつあ
The
る
king of wicked hearts.
写真王の攻撃によってこのままじ
Before
ゃ自
long,
我を保てない
I'll cease to be myself.
だから
So,
取り除いて
removing,
私の中を
removing
侵
impure
食する
wicked heart.
不浄なる
that's
邪
inside
心
me.
を
取り除
How
くって
do I remove
どう
it?
やって
私の世
You
界
saw
を
my
見た
world,
でしょ
right?
あの
That
黒い
black
もやは
mist is an impure
人
wicked
が持つ不
heart.
浄なる邪心を具現化したものむき出しの
Exposed evil.
それを掴
Grab
んで
it
私の
and
体か
pull
ら
it out of
引き
my
抜いて
body. I can't. Just the thought of doing something so disgusting. Please. It's okay.
私は
I want
私でいたいの。私の世
to
界
save
を
me. My world.
救って。
Then slowly, she dropped to the ground. She looked so frail. We'd promised. She told me this.
君を守る
I'll
わ。
protect you.
君
So,
も
I
私を
want you
守
to
って。
protect me. Sana and Kozupi were broken beyond repair. Rumi was gone. I didn't want to lose Ayase too. That was part of it. More than anything. I wanted to save her. I knew there was no way I could. But even if Ayase was just crazy, I knew this was all just part of her delusion. I wanted to save her. The second I had that thought, mist covered the world. I could see the blackness coiled like a snake about to strike, one end coming out of her chest. Just looking at it made me feel terrible. I wanted to look away. But if I did, nothing would change. I had to try. But I couldn't. My heart felt like it was being crushed in my chest. The headache was getting worse. I can't do it. I can't. I'm not the kind of person who could save somebody else. Don't tell me. I looked up when she called my name. She was offering me her hand, but I stared straight at me.
来て。
Huh?
私を
To let me know.
好きにして。
Complete trust. Or maybe just dependency. Nobody ever had relied on me like this before. My heart was starting to lose hope, but with the help of Ayase's voice, I managed to keep from giving up. I bit my lip. I took a step toward her. Her black snake stretched out to me like it had found new prey, and wrapped around my neck. It was so freezing cold that it actually felt hot. It wrapped around my neck with a gentle, almost pleasant force. Ayase fell toward me. All the strength had left her body. I had to support her from falling. Oh my.
匠。
Okay. I put my hands around her thin waist.
本当に
You're really sure?
いいの？
Go
いい
ahead.
わ。
I gulped loudly, and then I reached my hand out toward the black snake coming from her chest. In an instant, the mist took physical form. It became a black leech. The feeling of disgust got even worse. Yase's wicked heart, in its purest form, the ugliest parts of her, the one she didn't want to show anybody, that's what this was. I grabbed the leash's body. It was slippery, and it's cold, and it was physically painful. I wanted to let go of it immediately, but I didn't. Ayase was moaning with a look on her face somewhere between ecstasy and pain.
But...
Take it out. I pulled as hard as I could. I could feel what felt like tearing flesh. Black liquid poured out from her heart. It got all over my hands and face. I couldn't tell if it was blood or something else. I ignored it and I kept pulling at the leech. No. Are you okay? I stopped. I couldn't take her screaming, but Ayase put her hand on mine. Don't stop. No, I'm fine.
ないから。
Her voice was strong, even if she was covered in sweat. I didn't hesitate anymore. If I did, I'd just make her suffer. Out! I used all my strength. and pulled on the leech. Her body was spasming hard. The leech came coming out. It was longer than I thought. It turned into a black lump and wrapped itself around my arms. It was squeezing my hands with incredible strength. Maybe these were its death throes. I grit my teeth at the pain. I pulled it out, but I didn't know what to do with it. Pray. Ayase gently stroked my cheek, leaning her body up against mine. Pray that the impure wicked heart may become a pure one. The black wicked heart in my hand began to glow with a purple light, with a sound like a microphone feedback or a scream. Oh hey, it's his D-sword. It turned into a sword. The D-sword?
D-sword.
I wanted it so badly, but I'd never been able to get one. Now it was in my hands. Ayase's wicked heart had become a D-sword. You've awakened, Takumi. As I held her in my arms, Ayase smiled. She was still in pain, but she was smiling. There was sweat on her forehead, and her bangs were stuck to her brow. Thank you for waking up. Did I really do something worth a thank you? I couldn't tell. I wasn't sure. Takumi. Ayase put her hand around my neck. She held me tight. You're the only one who listened to me. Made me happy. So happy. Her body was so hot. The black liquid on her chest was gradually turning red. The blood stained my clothes too. I didn't care. I held Ayase tightly. Her breathing was ragged. Yeah. And with each breath she took, her whole body heaved. I could smell her sweat, but even that didn't bother me. I love you. Did I love Ayase? Maybe I was just dependent on her. But she was dependent on me too. That wasn't so bad, was it? Maybe we could just stay together, like this. Suddenly, the sky behind Ayase turned from reddish bronze to black. It was like a stain, or maybe a star. But the size of the stain grew bigger and bigger. It was on its way to blotting out the whole sky. What is that? I whispered in shock. Ayase saw that something was wrong. With my help, staggered to her feet to look up at the sky. That's the king of wicked hearts awakened. His invasion has begun. Did I not make it in time? Is it too late to stop it? I won't let this happen. Ayase pulled her D-sword from empty air. What are you going to do? This is written in the apocalyptic Psalms of Gladio. When the 7 D-swords gather, the great black snake of darkness shall appear. It is pure wicked heart made manifest. A wicked heart that can slay another wicked heart. That which is the same and yet different, which swallows all destruction and can shatter the body of the king of wicked hearts. I'm going to summon him here and defeat Gladia. She was still unsteady, but she somehow managed to raise her D-sword and close her eyes. It was almost like she was meditating. But I waited a moment and nothing happened. The sky had turned completely black now. It was almost like night had fallen. No, it was even worse. The blackness became a fog that settled over the city of Shibuya. It became a tsunami, filling the city of Shibuya with wicked hearts. It was getting closer, slowly, traveling along the rubble-filled ground. Everything was turning black. It was infecting the whole world without a sound. And then the wave was upon us, lapping at our feet. I let out a moan of despair. The rusty road was starting to rot. It was rotting, collapsing, turning to nothingness. And the people, the corpses, the rubble, everything was melting together and giving off a terrible stench. Ayase, isn't there something you can do?
どうして
Why? Ayase was licking her sword tearfully, ignoring my call.
理想度が7
I
本
have
揃
all
っているの
7 swords.
どうして
Why
現
won't you
れないの
come?
このままじゃ
Gladiel's
グ
about
ラ
to
ジオールに
swallow
世
up
界
the
は
whole
飲み込ま
world.
れてしまうわやっぱり
Maybe I needed the
黒騎士が
7
7
black
人
knights
集まらなけ
after
れば
all.
どうしよう予言通り
Maybe
に進
I
めな
needed
け
to
れば
do it just like the
ダメだったの
prophecy said. The waves were getting higher and higher. They'd been at our ankles just 30 seconds ago. Now they were at our knees. And the strange thing was that I could feel my body resisting being swept away by the waves. Did that mean they were physically here? They weren't just an illusion? The thought terrified me. Chippy was really about to rot away. Ayase, you need to come up with a delusion. One that defeats Gladiel. I screamed. I couldn't take it anymore. But Ayase shook her head.
私の妄
The
想
songs
じゃ
of
ないの
Gladiel aren't my
グ
delusion.
ラジオール機は
Maybe not, but we should be able to change the prophecy and come up with a new delusion, right? That's the power of a gigalomaniac. No, a Black Knight, isn't it?
でも
Takumi. She was looking at me helplessly.
わからない
I
の
don't know.
どうすれば
I
いい
don't
の
know
か
what to do. No. I got it. I couldn't speak. The blackness was covering the whole world. The sky was completely dark. There were no stars, no light at all. The black waves were up to our waists, and a torrent of water was threatening to pull us under. It was all we could do to stay standing. A half-melted corpse floated right past us, buoyed by the water. If I went under, I'd end up like that too. The thought made me want to scream in terror. What do I do? What do I do? No ideas came. I wasn't a hero, just a creepy otaku. Even if I had a D-sword now, I didn't know how to use it. It was completely useless. Somebody should just take me to a wall and kill me, right? Like in the crucified murder. And then I suddenly remembered. That's a song. The lyrics.
歌を
Sing.
歌うんだ
It wasn't just a guess. It was the only thing I could think of. But I was sure it would work.
歌で
Your songs are
綾
what
瀬の
spread
妄
your
想を
delusions
世
to the
界に
world.
拡散させるんだ
The world fest I created had captivated the youth of Shibuya. The myths of Gladiel by themselves weren't anything special. They may not even exist. Maybe they were an illusion that only Ayase had ever possessed. But now, that had changed. Phantasm songs had spread those myths to every young person in the city. She created a shared awareness.
だから歌うん
So,
だ
sing!
グラジオールを
Sing
倒
a
す歌を
song that defeats
歌ってよ
Gladiel's
フェス
fest.
歌えという
You
の
want me to sing?
この状況で
Here?
歌を
You
歌
told
う
me
こと
before,
で
didn't
導き
you?
が現れるっ
That
て
your songs were
前に
what
言って
gave
た
you
じゃないか
guidance. Yes,
そうね
I did.
言ったわそして
And that concert is where I met you,
匠と出会えた匠
Takumi. Ayase reached out her hand to me. I grabbed it and held it tight.
匠は
Do you like them,
Ski?
Takumi? My
私の
songs?
歌
Yeah.
うん
I listened to the CD I bought at the concert a bunch of times. I hadn't because of how much I hated crowds, but I actually wanted to go see her concerts a bunch more times. I nodded and Ayase smiled and looked so happy. Even if this
こ
is
こ
the
で滅
end,
びても
maybe
別
that's
にいいか
okay.
もしれない。
Now that I've heard you
匠
say
がそう言
that,
ってくれたから。歌うわ。
I'll sing.
聞いていて。
Listen to me,
匠。
Takumi. Ayase closed her eyes. She concentrated, focusing her mind just for a moment, and then she took a deep breath. When she opened her eyes again, she wasn't Ayase anymore. She was FES, the lead singer of Phantasm.
最下に
A
契
bloody
約の
contract
地。
for your sins. She whispered the name of the song and began to sing. Her voice echoed toward the dark black sky.
杭を
Pound in the
打
stake.
て杭
Pound
を
in the
打
stake.
て闇夜
Tear
の切
through
り
the
裂き
darkness
月
and bathe in the
光を
moonlight.
浴びて幾千
10,000
の
iron
鉄
hammers
は
bring
何時
you
の痛
pain.
みとなりて
now
今
unleashed.
解き放たれるやがて
Your
叫び
screams
は
dance in the air, staining the night sky red.
夜空は赤く染まるだろう十字の
And the
杭は
crucifix stakes will get you
力
power
とな
and
り
bring you to the Holy Land.
やがて聖域へとたどり着く
The song's lyrics gave me the hint I needed.
綾瀬
Ayase.
杭を打つんだ
Driving the stakes. I made a sound because the cat just abruptly licked me. By the way, that's what that was. The song wasn't about the crucified murder at all.
7本の
Bring the
地ソードを
seven
合わせ
D
て
swords together
闇夜
and
に打
pound
ち
them
込むん
into
だ
the dark night. This was the song about Gladiel's defeat. The song that would liberate Ayase from her rusted world.
綾瀬の世界を
Destroy your
壊
world.
せ
Ayase stared at me. Her eyes were ablaze with fire. I always thought she was most beautiful when she was singing. She felt so much more alive. There was no trace of the despair that had been there just a moment ago. Ayase understood exactly what I meant. She said nothing, just nodded. She held my hand tighter. As I struggled to stay upright against the black waves, I entrusted Ayase with my D sword. When she took it, a red light surrounded it, and it disappeared. But it wasn't gone forever. The red light was swallowed up by Ayase's D-sword, like something was guiding it there. I watched it go, and let go of Ayase's hand. She unleashed the power of a black night. The air around her began to shake with an intense, violent blast of wind. The black waves were pushed back by the shaking air, and began to swirl around us like a whirlpool. There was not even a slight trace of the bored, languid girl that Ayase usually was. She raised her sword. She took a wide stance, and she swung. Her body was filled with nervous tension, and with the strength of will that was looking toward the future. The pure destructive impulses within her, the ones she was barely keeping in check, were ready to explode. The red pulsing grew faster and faster. The sword controls fate, or that control controls fate. That sword is a convergence of sorrow. The sword allows us to interfere with the higher plane. A double-edged sword, which swallows up wicked hearts and which buries them. The cry of Ayase's soul, seeking salvation, took physical form. It was a manifestation of her chaotic heart. Her glare was locked on a single point. The black heavens. The one that had covered the blue sky I knew. The ones that had covered the red sky she knew. The sky of impure wicked hearts, about to bring darkness to the world. All that was left for me to do was pray. The king of wicked hearts, the Black Knight. It was up to Ayase which would be the winner. But strangely, I felt certain I knew who the victor would be. The myths Ayase had created with her songs would never lose to the king of wicked hearts. So, stakes! Pierce the world! May the door to the heavens be opened! With the speed of a bent bow snapping forward, Ayase threw the weapon with all her might. That's such a good CG. Oh, that's cool though. A line of light appeared in the air. The impact blew away the darkness, pierced the red heavens, and stabbed into the sky. And the sky cracked. The crack grew wider. And then, with a flood of sound, the world shattered. I like this one. I liked this ending, actually. It was a bumpy ride, but I liked it. You don't like how they killed and lobotomized the other Giggling/Black Knights, but yeah, that was... Well, nice isn't the right word, but still. They didn't lobotomize the other Giggling though, that was Suwa. Suwa did that. Remember in Ending B? How he tried to break Senna's and Kozupi's minds? But then naturally he got to Yua as well because he killed Bon. That was Suwa. They as in the dev/writers. Ah. Well. The next thing I knew, color had returned to the world. The sky was blue. I couldn't explain the color with words, but the sky I looked up at was blue. Had we defeated Gladio? If nothing else, the black mist covering the world was gone. A warm, soft hand held my own. Ayase was standing beside me. She was looking up at the sky, and wordlessly weeping. Blue. Such a beautiful color, isn't it?
見えるの
Can you see it?
見えるわ。
I can't.
匠が見ているのと
The same sky.
同じ色の空が。
Such a pure color. So pure. It seeps into your heart. So pure. It hurts to look at. I never knew. Unless such a pure color was spread out right above our heads. Funny. Well, not really funny, but fun fact. The word for pure in Japanese does contain blue. The more you know. Shibuya was buried in rubble. It was a city of death. There was no trace of the glitter and the brightness it had before. But Ayase looked at it, eyes squinting at the light, and said,
世界は
The world is such a
こんなにも
beautiful
美
place,
しいの
isn't
ね
it? She softly squeezed my hand as she spoke. A bloody contract for your sins, and I liked that one. I think thus far that is my favorite ending. Well, no, I'd say I liked it more than the first ending too. If you had a nickel for every time a science adventure game named a point of how good and nice the otherwise mundane blue sky is, etc., etc. Yeah.